So you just picked up your Sony camera and you're wondering, what lenses should I buy next? Because you got the standard kit lens, you want to upgrade to something a little bit nicer. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I have for my Sony Full Frame A7C. I'm also going to be talking to you APS-C shooters, and I'll give you equivalents that meet each one of these. Because at the end of the day, it's about good video. That's what we're here to help you with. So let's go ahead, rock this video now. So today we're going to be talking about the 4 lenses. These are pretty much the video lenses that I use whenever I'm doing a professional shoot. These lenses come with me almost everywhere I go, to a point. We'll talk about that in a second. Let me tell you, I am shooting with my Sony A7C, and I do have the Sigma 16mm f1.4 APS-C lens on there. Full frame camera with an APS-C lens. Absolutely, it does work. Go ahead, check out the link down in the description below. That's going to give you the video in which I talk about the Sigma 16mm and how it works with your full frame camera. First off, let me give you my favorite vlogging lens, and that is the Sony 20mm f1.8. This lens is exceptional. I love this lens for its quality and versatility. It's super wide. It's so wide, I can't even use it here in the studio because it's just too wide. It shows off everything in my background that I don't want you to see. It's a G Master lens, runs you about 800 bucks. It's got a clickable aperture. See, clickable, and a declickable aperture. And this thing runs from f1.8 all the way up to f22. I absolutely love this lens. 800 bucks, it makes vlogging so much easier. You don't have to extend your arm all the way out. You're looking like this, you're really struggling. No, not with this lens. This lens does a great job of getting nice and wide, and it's got a nice 67mm filter thread on here. It does an exceptional job with the vlogging. So if you're looking for a great full frame vlogging lens, I cannot talk highly enough about this lens. If you want any more information about any of these lenses, I've done a review on every single one except for this next one, and those links are down in the description below. So hopefully maybe this next lens that I'm about to talk about, I've done a review on, and you'll let me know if I should by leaving a comment down below. So leave a comment down below if you want to see a review of this lens. This lens is taken over as my ultimate thumbnail lens. And what is it? Well, it is the Sony 35mm f1.4 G Master lens. This lens is really good for photo, and it's good for video as well. It does have a clickable aperture ring, just like the 20mm, and it also has the declicking option as well. So you can declick this and make this a nice smooth aperture change. Ooh. Now, both the 20mm and the 35mm do have a button on the side. Now, normally I don't use this button as much as I think most people would. I'm not usually looking for a focus hold, and that's what I have it set to. Do me a favor, if you use this button, leave a comment down below. I would love to know what other people program this button to on their camera. So this is an exceptional lens. It does great for thumbnails, for portraits, for street photography. I absolutely love this lens. This lens does a fantastic job. And like I said, I've been using it for almost all of my B-roll. I found that the 20mm is just a little too wide for B-roll, unless you're getting a wide establishing shot. This one I like for close-up, where I don't have to be a mile away. And we'll talk about these other 2 lenses and how you have to be further away to make things happen. But I really like this for B-roll. I like that it's got an f1.4 aperture, so you can go down really low on the aperture. You can totally get good looking B-roll shots using this lens. Great lens. It also has that 67mm filter thread, which seems to be pretty much a standard with a lot of video centric lenses, but this thing is a portrait lens first, but it does a great job in video too. Does have a little focus breathing, so that is one of the cons. If you figure out how to get around that, this lens is exceptional. Okay, so I mentioned APS-C as well. So if you were an APS-C shooter and you're looking for an equivalent of the 20mm lens, you're gonna want some in like that 10 to 15 range. 16mm, like I said, the Sigma 16mm, hands down the best APS-C lens for a Sony APS-C camera. Hands down, cannot go wrong with that. It's about a 24mm equivalent. One of the lenses I would like to pick up maybe is the 24mm G Master lens. But right now I've been pretty happy using the 20 and the 35 for most things. And to be honest with you, these guys are in my bag every single time I go out. I never leave home without them. Great for portraits, good for B-roll, great for vlogging. Hands down, 2 best lenses in my opinion, because I absolutely love prime lenses. Let's slide over here. Let's get to the catch-all. This is the Sigma 24-70 beast of a lens. This thing is huge. This lens comes in at a whopping, I don't know, heavy. It's just heavy. This is their art lens. Basically what they did is they took their 24-70 and they put the Sigma MC11 adapter on the back end. I really would love to see Sigma kind of develop a new lens from the ground up. I think they could do it at a much lighter weight. That's the downside with the Sigma lenses, in my opinion. Other than the new APS-C lenses, the Sigma lenses are very heavy. I use the Sigma 24 contemporary lens. That lens, beautiful lens, does a great job, great competition with the Sony 24mm. I think it's so heavy too. It's ridiculous. Now this thing has a focus, autofocus switch. Both these lenses have that as well. This also has a lock on it because sometimes you do get a little creep. You got the zoom in and out feature, but then it locks at 24mm. Now this thing has an 82mm filter thread. It's huge. It's a chunk of a glass right here. Look at that thing. That thing is big. What I've actually done when I'm shooting video is I do have an 82mm filter that I put on here. It's the Peter McKinnon variable ND filter, the Signature 2. You can get the mist or the Signature lens. With that, you're gonna need step-up rings to step it down here. But I do like this lens. This lens does a great job, but it's really heavy. It's really heavy. So if I'm out just for a day shoot with the family, probably taking these two lenses, because when you throw Sony's cameras into the APS-C Super 35 mode, this 35mm turns into like a 50mm-ish lens. This becomes a 30mm lens. So I feel like I don't necessarily miss having this lens in my bag. If I'm going on a professional gig, definitely gonna use this. Final lens that I love carrying around is the Zeiss Batis 85mm. Love this lens. This is a great B-roll lens as well if you're B-rolling somebody or a big item, because if you're trying to get that nitty-gritty small detail, this thing has incredible focusing distance, so you can get up real tight, real close. It's super light, super compact. I mentioned in my video, those Zeiss Wizards got this thing down to a very light lens, but there's really not a whole lot of bells and whistles with this lens. This lens is primarily used for portraits. So if I were doing video, I'm gonna be sticking more with the 20 and the 35mm, or even reaching for the 24-70, or I'm gonna be grabbing this 85mm to do some B-roll, some uptight, close B-roll, get those close, detailed shots. That's what this 85's for. This thing pairs up really great on a gimbal. If you were throwing it on a gimbal with your Sony a7C, these lenses will do a great job. What are the equivalents out there? So for this one, I would say get the Sigma 16mm. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit tighter. It's gonna be a 24mm because there's really not a really good prime lens out there that gets you that 20mm reach. That's part of the reason why I upgraded to the full frame, is to get a little bit wider on the vlogs. For this bad boy, you're gonna want some in like the 23-ish millimeter range. That 23 is gonna get you close to that 35, 23, 24. Sigma makes the 16, the 30, and the 56mm. Now the 56mm Sigma, highly recommend that if you're an APS-C shooter. That's gonna be very compatible to this Batis 85. Love that lens. So the two lenses that I use so much for the APS-C were the 16mm and the 56mm from Sigma. Great lenses. And then if you want the cream of the crop for APS-C and you want that 24-70 equivalent, you're gonna be looking at that Sony 16-55 G lens. That thing does a great job. Only thing I didn't like about that lens is when you're using it for video, it does cause a lot of rolling shutter. I don't know what it is about that lens, but it felt like the rolling shutter was really harsh on that thing. So if you're gonna be doing pans and things like that, you're gonna get some rolling shutter. It just is what it is. Maybe it's a little bit better. I had the A6400. Maybe it's a little bit better on the A6600, but I know on the A6400, that rolling shutter was rough. So if you notice, I don't have a super wide zoom lens. I've tried out that Tamron 17-28mm. It was a nice lens. It worked out well, but yeah, it just wasn't worth it picking up for me. I just feel like the 20mm does it for me. Now, maybe if there's a refresh of the Sony 16-35mm and that comes with optical steady shot in a version 2, maybe I'll pick that up. They just came out with that Sony 70-200mm, and I'll see if that ultimately makes it in my camera bag, because I am a big fan of the 70-200 range. I like the way that it looks when you're taking portraits. Question is how much portrait work am I ultimately gonna do? More of a video guy, so that's why I stick a lot with the prime lenses. and a lot at the wider end. So if you like this video, you're gonna like the playlist that I put on the screen right now. It's a playlist of full frame Sony lenses. Before you leave, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Brian out.